Shazam is the latest film in the Warner Brothers slash DC cinematic and yet no longer cinematic universe, and follows an orphan named Billy Batson who has been in and out of foster homes for most of his life. And in this film, he gets put in a new foster home, and while one of his new siblings, who's crippled and also happens to know a lot of stuff about superheroes, is being attacked by some bullies, Billy defends him. And then, because of all this, this ancient sorcerer chooses Billy to be his champion, to take all of his superpowers, or, no, sorry, not superpowers, but to take all of his abilities and, yeah, basically powers, and use them as his own whenever he calls out the sorcerer's name, Shazam. As most of you probably already know, I'm currently in the middle of doing a sort of catch-up schedule with a few movies that I missed last year, that I hadn't gotten around to reviewing because of some personal things that were going on in my life. And one of the films that I haven't gotten to yet was Aquaman. But, so that you guys know about my feelings about the DCEU up to this point, up to Shazam, including my overall opinion of Aquaman, but no spoilers to that review. I love Man of Steel. I thought that Batman vs. Superman was a jumbled mess, but still had redeeming qualities, and I only found the extended edition maybe slightly better. Suicide Squad had very little redeeming about it. Wonder Woman I like, though not as much as most people. I don't think it's a great movie, and it was definitely not worthy of being Best Picture at the Oscars. I still have no idea what the hell that was about. Justice League had so much behind-the-scenes drama that led to a bad movie, and I'm not talking about the stuff surrounding the tragedy of Snyder's family. It's a completely different thing. I'm talking about all the rushing to get it into theaters and all the studio interference involved with it. And for Aquaman itself, it was definitely a fun time. I'll put more detail into it when I get to my review about it. So with having enjoyed Aquaman recently, I was looking more forward to Shazam, mainly because of the casting of Zachary Levi, which honestly, when they cast Zachary Levi, I knew exactly what they were going to do with this movie. They were going to make it more of a family-friendly kind of campy romp, and honestly, I loved how the promotional material, the trailers, made it really feel like it was taking inspiration from Tom Hanks' Big and putting it into a superhero movie. Now, before I get into my actual thoughts on the film, I do want to put in a quick disclaimer for those of the uninitiated, those who've never seen any of my videos. The way that I break down my thoughts is that I do a pro and con list. You know, pro is everything that I like about the movie, and cons are everything that I either don't like about the movie, or maybe they're lacking in a certain bit of quality. I try to keep these sections separate, but sometimes I'll use bits and pieces of them to transition into one another. I use a pro to transition into a con, or vice versa. Actually, yeah, that's about it. Okay, there's your disclaimer. Let's go ahead and get into things. Things. I really enjoyed the angle that the story went to, how Billy is just this kid who's had very little good happen to him in his life, and suddenly he's gained all these abilities, and it's a mix of him trying to figure out what he can do, and also see what he can get out of it, whether it's going to a store and getting beer, or just using his abilities in an attempt to make some extra money on the side. And the film would not work as well as it does without Zachary Levi playing Shazam. He is amazing. Every single scene with him is gold. He really brings, or he brought out what I thought most kids would be like, and how they'd react if they were put in this situation. He really embodied this childlike or teenager-like spirit that you would expect out of a child trapped in a man's body, like they did in Tom Hanks' Big. And of course, someone who gets maybe a little tiny bit more screen time than Zachary Levi is Jack Dylan Grazer, you know, the Gazebos kid from Stephen King's It. He provides the majority of the comedy that works in the movie, and I thought that with his character being a bit more rambunctious and just straight up loud in personality, that maybe it would get tired early, but luckily it doesn't. Also, I thought that Angel Asher did a very good job at playing Billy Batson himself. He was really able to hook me in with his motivations and, you know, what he was trying to do before he gained his abilities, which involved him trying to find his birth mother, which, by the way that he goes about trying to find her is so convoluted and perplexing that it felt like the filmmakers were just trying to add a more interesting way of finding a parent than actually trying to find her in a logical and way more easy way. Also, despite enjoying his performance overall, I did feel like there was a big disconnect with the main character and his alter ego being played by two different actors. And, you know, I tack this one on here because it's the most noticeable, and I say tack it on with Angel Asher's performance. But to be honest, it may be Zachary Levi's fault as well, or just Asher's. I'm really unsure, but both actors emote differently all the time. Asher is slightly more subdued about certain things, and then Levi is just way more energetic. You know, he's actually emoting more, especially from his face and body movement. And at first I didn't really think about it, but Mallory, my wife, was the one who brought it up to me, and just, you know, in the difference between the two acting styles, and it opened my eyes a bit. It kind of shattered the glass when I realized just how jarring it was, and honestly, I thank her for that. I feel that for this film, the emotional core is with the foster family that Billy gains very early on in the film. And while at first I thought that they were a nice aspect to the film, I quickly became tired of it. The parents are a little bit too perfect in some ways, and most of the kids have no personalities, aside from a couple that fit into certain character stereotypes. Hell, there's this one girl who is just an exposition machine for herself, and everyone in the film plays off of this aspect like, oh yeah, that's just how she is, and I don't personally like it. Too much exposition in a film doesn't sit right with me, especially if I don't feel like it's being utilized correctly. But getting back to the family itself, they are truly the heart and soul of this film, and if you can get into the family focus, and if it works for you, then you will enjoy this movie. But it really didn't work for me. And tied to a few other things that bother me about the family, the main issue that I had with this film, and this was a big surprise because this is what I was going into the film hoping for. This is what the trailers made me excited about, and it was the campiness. And don't get me wrong, I love campiness, but the campiness factor in Shazam felt too commercial, like it was manufactured on an assembly line with a bunch of other movies that are just like factory standard, you know? And so because of this, the more comedic and fun moments fell flat for me. Now that's not to say that all the comedic and fun moments were bad or they just fell apart. There are legitimate good ones in this movie. I mean, I love the full scene where Shazam and Grazer's character are in the gas station. That one's really good. I loved one of the fight scenes between Shazam and Dr. Savannah, the villain in the movie, which I will talk on a little bit later, where Shazam is throwing things at Savannah, and you'll know what I mean when you see it, because that's the part that makes it really funny. And then this other scene, no spoilers, but... shit, how do I describe it? Okay, simply put, it's just two people talking to each other at a certain distance, and honestly, that entire thing could have been stretched out. That was my favorite moment in the entire movie. But back to my original point, I believe that the campiness is ruined a bit more because of the musical score, because you'll be in a scene that's really hokey and campy, and you feel like maybe they're doing this on purpose, or you know that they're doing it on purpose because of just how hokey and campy and corny it is. But then the musical score will make you, it'll convey a serious tone, and then you just wonder, what are they trying to do with this? I was really hoping going into this movie that I was going to enjoy Mark Strong's Dr. Savannah, because I love Mark Strong. He's one of my favorite actors that doesn't really get that much notice these days, it seems. He's not a household name, and he's always brought his A game no matter what. And I feel like he tries to in this movie, but this is one of his more lackluster performances in years, and I don't even think it's his fault. I think it's legitimately the writing that pretty much throws him under the bus, because his character has a backstory, and it's given quite a bit of focus, especially early on. And he's set up as a character fairly well, something that surprised me and intrigued me at the same time. And when I got a sense of who he was and, you know, why he came out to be this bad guy that he is, and I don't know, they put in this large gap of time between his true origin and present day. And with his true origin, he holds a grudge, and despite so much happening to him, probably in that span of time, which is probably 30 years at least, you know, they expect me to believe that he's still holding the same grudge against the same people. So, okay, no character development between those times. Okay, I see that. So maybe that means we'll get some in this film?
Nope.
And not only that, the powers that they gave him in this movie, which are basically on equal level with Shazam, but also giving him control over certain elements, let's just say, so that I don't spoil things for anybody who hasn't seen the movie. But having giving him control over those certain elements could have actually made him a very interesting villain with a certain, you know, an interesting set of powers. But they don't go far enough with those, and they kind of limit him by doing certain things with those elements. For me, Shazam is not the worst of the DCEU's films, but it wasn't something that I fully enjoyed to the point that I actually wanted to. It's an overall middle-of-the-road film that does play a more satirical approach to the superhero genre, that has some pretty good lead performances, and executes that big mentality, or that angle that they wanted to go for pretty well. But Shazam is brought down by by the focus on family that's, while a nice try, it came across as pretty mediocre. The campiness feels overly constructed in a formulaic way, and also, again, it has a boring villain in the long run. And again, if you buy into the parts focusing on the foster family, you will most likely buy this film as a whole, because it's definitely set as the heart and soul of the film. But if you don't buy into that, you're probably not going to buy into the rest of the film like, you know, like me. And those are my thoughts on Shazam. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do not hesitate to hit that like button. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so you can keep up to date with everything that goes on the channel. And also, don't forget to keep the conversation going down below in the comment section. I really enjoy hearing what you guys have to say about the movies and topics that I talk about on my videos. Now all that's left to say is, once again, thank you for watching. Farewell until the next video, all you casual moviegoers and movie fans alike, and keep on being awesome.